Yeah. See, you ain't playing with no rookie. The mama. You take this money, we gon' throw a party.
I do my thing, now watch me blow up. I promise I'm the best, they mediocre. I'm about to take them to church, go berserk, check out my sermon. I major about this paper, you like my nature, come and learn one. And teach you how to grind and get that paper till you blow up, baby, pull up with me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of Crescent Clips podcast. I am your host, Ariel Johnson, and I'm so excited to step into what I believe is a newer, more clear part of my calling. After several years of running CCC, which most of you know is Celestial Content Creations, I've had the pleasure of being able to talk to people from many different walks of life, whether you are a small business owner, a hustler, a dreamer, or someone who's working to climb the corporate ranks with a traditional 9 to 5 job. The common bond between all of the wonderful lives that I'm able to touch is that each of you have a story to tell. Well, after running my business for the last 3 to 4 years, I realized that there is um, a different thought process or story that a lot of the entrepreneurs and members of the creator economy tell themselves, that I would love if more of the people that I serve on the corporate 9 to 5 track would get more exposure to. And it's not that I'm saying, oh, everyone should quit their job and just run for the hills and be fun employed. That's not it at all. It's just there are certain mental constructs that I believe would be extremely beneficial for all of the, corporate crusaders, if you will, who are in the 9 to 5 realm. So to help you maintain your independence and remember your why and not lose yourself when it comes to climbing the corporate ladder or working your 9 to 5. So that's what this space is for. It's an opportunity for me to give the world at large, or whoever wants to listen to this at large, a viewpoint into the mindset that it takes to be fully autonomous and fully take control of your own destiny. And so most of the guests that I'll have on this show are people who are doing just that. You get into the minds of the hustlepreneurs, the people who are carving their own lane. And what I want everyone to take away is not only the uniqueness of these stories, but just the philosophies and just the overall belief that most of my guests will have about themselves and their abilities and their calling on the world. So the first episode is more of an explainer, but of course, I have to give you guys a deeper dive and a deeper look into what's motivating me. And so my first guest is my fiance, Victor, and he's actually going to take us through a series of questions that give you guys an overall understanding and to set the tone for all of the other episodes to follow. So thank you so much, Victor, for coming on. And I'm actually going to turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. Ariel, thank you. Trying to call you baby throughout this. I appreciate you, for always being a spark in not just our relationship, but in this world. Um, quick story. When I first met Ariel, I instantly felt like this girl had something special. Like there was a light, there was a power, there was this confidence, there was this girl is going to be successful no matter what. And being in New York, you run into this a lot, but not everybody kind of lives up to these things, and not everybody goes and gets the stuff done that they need to get done. And having a front row seat to her over these past almost 2 years now, I can say with full confidence, believe the hype about her, because I've seen her overcome, push through, get anything she said she's going to get. I've seen her go get it. So I feel honored to have, these few minutes to ask you questions and let the rest of the world see a little bit more about you.
Thank you, honey. And I am gonna call you baby and sweetie and honey, because one thing we gonna do on this podcast is keep it the fuck real. Like we not this is the point.
Questions that I think are gonna, tell your story, and questions I think can help other people. But we're gonna start off very simple. Let's just start with telling us about your business, your passion, and how it all started, and what came first, your passion or your business.
This is a chicken and the egg scenario. Well, I remember wanting to tell stories, and pardon me if I'm taking a while to get this out, because what I'm passionate about, it changes from time to time, but it's not changing as in doing a complete pivot. It's more so the quieter I become, the more clarity I get. And so I started off at like 9 years old wanting to tell stories, but doing it in the form of writing. And so my earliest memory of just me being an independent writer, freelancer, if you will, was actually 9 years old. My next door neighbor had served in the Vietnam War, and I thought that was so cool. And so in my mind, I was just pretended that I was a magazine editor, and I went next door and interviewed him and like found out all these things about his time in the war. And then I came home and I wrote up the story, and then I designed a cover. And at the time I was using loose leaf paper, so I like put a piece of string through the loose leaf holes, tied it up, and like almost like made like a little book binding with it. And that was my earliest memory of like, oh, I am a writer now. And so it's easy to categorize yourself as a writer, but really and truly all along I've just been fascinated with storytelling. And because I am open to whichever pulls and nudges from the universe come along, I try not to label myself as one thing, because my business, Celestial Content Creations, just since it started with just resumes, has now evolved to helping small business owners and entrepreneurs tell their stories of their business. And now here we're sitting in another example of an evolution of it's all storytelling. Now we're looking at a different platform, which is in this case podcasting. And hey, check back with me in 5 years and I might be writing for television. I might be telling stories in novels. So I think that one consistent thing is always going to be storytelling. My business, as it has grown since 2018, has become most known for resume writing, but we're evolving past that, because yes, it's great that I can help Tom, Dick, and Harry get a new job with the resume. But wouldn't it be amazing if I can help Tom, Dick, Harry, and every Tom, Dick, Harry they know with storytelling or motivation, or helping people find what is the true story about themselves? Because every part of who we are and how we exist is a compilation of the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. And it's whether we are choosing to believe the stories that are fed to us, or if one day we up and decide to change the narrative and tell a story independently of what is being given to us. So it's all about storytelling, I would say, is my passion.
And that's you said a lot of things in there that I took key points that I think are important to take away, and I want to make sure that the audience heard it. And I'm gonna repeat it. Is one thing is that you kind of, and I'm not gonna say it exact, but you kind of let the universe pull you in different directions, and you bounce back and forth to see what is your true passion. Is it the writing part? Is it the storytelling part? Is it helping people get in these places? And I think that's important because, not everybody has that, 9-year-old experience that you write, or let's say you paint, or you play football, or you do something for the first time and you're like, yo, that's it right there. And I think what you've taught me and what I want people to hear when they say this is that your passion, your dream can evolve and can continue to evolve. it's not, it's not one thing and that's it. It's going to transform over time, and it's going to form more over time. It's okay to have a loose passion. It doesn't
Hmm.
have to be a solid shape.
And it shouldn't be. It's more fun. Life is more fun when you open yourself up to being pleasantly surprised. Like, it's like, I know I wanted to be in love, but I couldn't have dreamt you up. But you
Like,
feel like everything that I ever wanted to feel, but the how is not up to us. You just got to figure out the what. And we talk about this, and I want everybody to know this, like, figuring out the how, that is just not our swim lane. All we are supposed to do is figure out the what and the why and keep moving towards that. And the how will always be surprise and delight. And you'll just appreciate life a little bit more.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And that was my next question. You kind of already took it. Was like, how's your dream or what did it transform into today? I know you kind of briefly touched on it. Do you want to elaborate any more on it? Like, talk about like, where is Celestial Contents going to today? What is the next, what is your new and improved offering that you bring to the table and to the world today?
Yeah. So, as you guys know, most people know, I am a hustler, a grinder, by nature. And that has served me well for survival. However, the place that I am at now from my own evolution is all about working smarter, not harder, and not selfishly thinking, but from a service lens. So, part of the whole tagline for Celestial Content Creation is serving words. And even though that's just a 2-word tagline, there's so much that can fit within that tagline. Like, I can be serving words via resume writing. I can be serving words on a podcast. I can be serving words in a book, in uh, a workshop, whatever it is. I'm still being true to that underlying core foundation of my business. But within that, there's so much wiggle room. So the way that I am embodying the mission of my company now is trying to make impact or aiming to make impact at scale. And I'm moving away from doing individual resumes because that's teaching one man to fish in one lake in, on one day in fishing season. I want to have a lake, every day is fishing season. As many people who want to fish, learn how to fish, they know how to fish. And I'm going to teach y'all how to make fish fry. Like, if that makes sense, it's going to be giving myself in a way and shifting my energy in a way to where I can broaden my reach. And of course, being a media student my entire life, I understand how much farther and deeper and faster words can travel when you do it over a richer means of communication. And this podcast is exactly a step in that direction. And I'm so thankful for all of the clients that I have helped on an individual basis come up with your business plans or revise your resumes, mock interviews. But there's so many more people I can help with the same amount of energy transfer or even effort by shifting my focus to a different medium. So right now, what people can expect out of Celestial Content Creation is me actually offboarding my resume business. I'll have a group of referrals, and it's just like, thanks to the universe with that too. So when I went to Xavier with, made a post today of like, hey, I'm about to start doing resumes. And I know this person, I know her credibility, and I know that she's good. And I DM'd her and said, hey, can I send you my referrals? So you all will still be in good hands. And of course, I can never forget the people that got me to this point. So all of my current clients, you guys will have a special subscription option to always have a dotted line into me. Of course, I would never just abandon everyone. But as far as taking new resume appointments and career consultation, I am no longer going to be doing that. And I'm going to be using the platforms that are available to me i.e., social media, YouTube, this podcast, and just spread knowledge in that way so it's accessible at all times for all people.
And yeah, that's definitely an interesting turn. Like, you went from starting off writing and helping people, and I would say, at least in my community, people who look like me, we weren't really always taught the whole basics of how to write proper. This word goes here, this goes here. Our school system kind of pushed us along just to get us through. And I feel like I personally definitely missed out on some things on when it comes to writing. So having that confidence, which leads me to confidence is what you give in that service by helping us basically doing it for us. But I think because I'm close to you, I see and I hear more of the story of where you're going. And one thing I want you to talk a little bit more about is the confidence is two parts. One, where did you get your confidence to one, just run through and just take over whatever you do in business, in life? But two, how do you help people really gain their confidence? Like, what would you say for someone that is, scared to start that business, scared to submit that cover letter, nervous about the way their resume looks compared to other people's resumes? That, I think, is where your business, I think that's where a big part of your business is. It's kind of an underlining bonus that they get when working with you. I think, people should hear more about that.
Oh, yeah. I am in the business of fear dismantling. That is mostly what I am doing. I am delivering so much more than resumes. Everyone who's worked with me is fully capable of doing a resume. Doing a resume is a boring task, a nerve-wracking task, but it's not an impossible task. You know what you did for the last however many years. You were the person working these jobs. So no one is actually better equipped to speak to your experiences than you. However, people don't believe that and people don't receive that. And so I, to answer your first question of where do I get my confidence, I worked for it, and the work came in the form of reshaping the narratives. Like, I don't navigate through the world hanging on to the stories that have been told about what's possible for people who look like me, what's possible for people who come from where I come from, what's possible for people who, are my height or my skin color. There's so many swirling narratives that are just hovering all over our head, and so much of those narratives were imprinted on us since we were children, and it feels like you feel helpless almost. You feel helpless. You say, I am from a disadvantaged community because I'm Black, because I'm Hispanic, because the list goes on. And none of that is true. I decided that I'm going to release those beliefs because the common theme, and we'll see this as the podcast continues, everyone that I invite on this podcast will echo that same sentiment. And you guys are going to go back to this first episode and you're going to be like, wait, she really is on to something here. The people who are brave enough to go out and chase a dream, the currency for achieving your goals in this life is dumping all of the nonsense that has been forced upon us in the form of beliefs about what it is you can be and who
And
you are.
now it's time for a break and a word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Celestial Content Creations, LLC, trademark. Celestial Content Creations was founded in 2018 out of the apparent need for professional writing services for career seekers and budding entrepreneurs. Head on over to www.celestialcontentcreations.com to book the service that you need to help us meet you at the point of your writing needs. And now back to the show.
Let's talk about your corporate success, right? People always you have your passions, you have your dreams, but I always say, you need to fund those somehow before they become your meal ticket, basically.
Yeah.
So You've been very successful since you left school, since you started in the corporate world. Tell us about your path. Tell us how it started. Tell us where you're at now. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, talk about that. Let's hear it.
And that's so interesting that now, standing in 2021, people have to remind me to talk about my corporate success, because anybody who knew me, who's known me for more than 10 years, it would always be the reverse. Like, so much of my identity was tied to the companies that I worked for, so much so that, oh, I'm going to track across the country from Louisiana to Penn State because I know I can get a good job, and I'm going to go from middle of nowhere Pennsylvania to New York because I have to work in the media industry. And not only do I have to work in the media industry, I got to start off at Nickelodeon. Why? Because I love SpongeBob. Like, there was so much things that just had to be true in my life, and I'm so thankful for it. But it was evidence of my power, but also evidence of me drinking the Kool-Aid. So my career started off at Viacom Nickelodeon. It was such an amazing time. I have, for the most part in my career, been in ad sales. So I'm the person and on the team that's going out there and convincing our clients of, hey, the money you're spending, the billions you're spending, it's worth the spend because here are the ratings, here's the information to tell you that it's worth your spend. And then I went to NBC Universal doing more of that same thing. And then I went to Walt Disney Company to do more of that. And then I decided, hey, this power of manifestation thing, this law of attraction thing, this, you know, affirmation thing, the concoction of what I'm doing as far as the exercise outside in the spiritual realm, it works to get me pretty much whatever I say I'm going to go get. And so my biggest, I don't know, magic work to date was manifesting a role at Google. I been looking up to this company for several years since I was at NBC. All the conversations would be like, oh, Google is blowing us out of the water, guys. We got to figure this out. And I said to myself in these meeting rooms now, well, why on earth would I sit around and sit here and help y'all figure out how to catch up, close a distant fourth place gap between NBC and Google when I could just go be on the winning team? Why would I be here? So then I just set my sights to Google, and I would do things like, if ever I was downtown near 14th Street, I would stop by and touch the front door just to transfer my energy, just to declare to the world, whereas most people believe getting a job at this company is impossible because of the stories they've been told. I was like, nah, I'm going to start off little by little. I will see myself in this building. And so April of 2020 is when I started at Google. What I said about being open to the what and not the how, this job is a perfect example of that. I had spent almost a year, probably a little past a year, manifesting, doing all the little witchcraft. I'm work at Google. And then I finally land a position, and then the pandemic hits. And so I never even went into a Google office as an employee. I don't have an employee badge, even to this day. But I promise you, I do work there. I do. And over the past year and a half that I've been at Google, I've also gotten a refinement on what is truly important to me. And so now what's so interesting is the shift of my who I am, what's most important to me is totally flipped on its head, because hey, Google, what I used to consider my North Star, but the more that I get into my purpose and what makes me happy, the more that I am getting shifted and directed. The wind is blowing me another direction. And so I've gotten to a place where I don't idolize a corporation anymore in the same way that I used to, because I had to realize that my path is still being set out and still being charted, but my path is 100% going to be me telling stories. And if I'm ever in a situation where I'm not doing that, well, I don't think that this is a permanent stop. It's always going to be a temporary stop.
Now, just so we make sure that we're keeping score at home, I'm going to run back through her companies because anybody look at this resume. If I owned a few stocks from each of these companies she worked at, we probably wouldn't be doing this podcast. We'd probably be chilling on a beach somewhere. She started off at Nickelodeon, went to NBC, Disney, then Google. I could tell my 65-year-old father who barely knows how to use a computer all of those companies she worked for, and he will know every single one of those. I can go through the last 4 companies that I worked for, and he would have never even heard of the name. Like that is no easy feat. Those are major companies with probably thousands and thousands of people applying to the same positions you applied to, and you got each one. And one thing I love that you said, because I'm a big believer in it too, is you have to see in your head that you can do it. Then you got to believe in your head that you can do it. And then it's going to just come and get done because people who want it are going to get it done. And you always, like I said, again, you always get it done, which is great.
Yeah.
But
And I would add to that. I wouldn't even say it's just seeing in your head and believing that you can. It's also feeling it too. Like you have to feel like you work there because it's not just, oh, what you think you become. It's what you think, what you focus on, and what you feel is what you become.
yeah, definitely. And that leads me into like the next kind of question or topic that I want to touch on is you mentioned you get here, you get to this next spot, you get to the next spot. Now your idea is like rotating, right? How do you know that you've reached your success, you've reached your point, you can chill for a second? Like, how do you know when you can chill, and what are you doing in between reaching all these to remain chill and to remain calm? Because we see all these wins, but I know it's like the duck, right? The duck is cruising on the water, but underneath she's pedaling super hard. So I
Yeah.
know you're making this look easy, and from the outside, it looks like you're coasting, but I actually know because I live with you. You work extremely hard. So where does the relaxing part, where does the chill part come in, and when will you know where you got to where you need to be or where you want to be, that and you can relax for a second?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so funny that you would say, like, I know you don't be chill. Well, it's 1:22 in the morning right now, and we're recording this.
Well, it's a late night show. I don't know if you knew this. It's a late night show. We forgot to mention at the beginning.
They need to know this because that answers all the questions. Like, how I am able to balance these things is I do lose sleep sometimes, but one of the main premises of this show is that it's a two-parter, and it's always a two-parter. It's glorifying the grind because there's beauty in having a strong work ethic. The strong work ethic is what picks me up whenever I have my bi-weekly breakdowns about whatever I'm breaking down about that you have to piece me back together about. But then it's also prioritizing the unwind. You or anyone else on this planet, we can't keep going. Energy is not a resource that we can just manufacture. It can only be transferred. And so the way that I'm able to check these boxes and get these things done is I have to have the requisite energy, almost like, I don't know, like a artillery or a little grab bag of energy. And the way that I have the energy that's required for me to push and get things done and make it seem and actually feel at peace. Like, yes, I'm sleepy, but I'm sleepy because it's past my bedtime, not because I'm exhausted and I'm sleep deprived. I'm not sleep deprived. I actually made sure that I bucketed out my weekend and that I took a nap earlier today. And so it's all about loving yourself enough to take care of yourself while you're pursuing your dreams. And when you do that, that's the hardest part. It sounds so simple, but y'all can all chime in and amen at the fact that it is sometimes very difficult to love yourself enough to do anything, to get out of the bed, to go exercise, to diet, to, sing if you know how to sing, or stop feeling sorry for yourself when you feel like being coddled. Like that, oh, all you gotta do is love yourself and take care of yourself. It's not simple. So I treat it religiously. Taking care of myself is a religion to me, because I know if I burn out for real, if I actually burn out, not just stay up late talking to my fiance on the phone like high schoolers, that's what we're doing. That's what this is. If I actually burn myself out, I can't show up for this. I can't show up for you. I can't show up for our dogs. I can't show up for work. So it's the energy, maintaining a certain frequency or in which my energy is radiating. It can only come by taking care of myself and doing the activities like going on bike rides, or like, doing the things that bring me joy, so that then I'm getting deposits from that infinite source that's out there, which is just pure light. I get that inside of me, and that is what helps me to say, you know what, I'm not going to focus on the fact that I'm up at 126 and recording a podcast because of, oh, technical difficulties. I'm not focused on that. I am rejoicing at the fact that I get to have this platform, and I get to have a fiance who supports me enough. And I get, it's all a privilege in the way you think about your life and the way you receive the events that come towards you. It's that your perception then becomes your reality. This doesn't suck. This is fun.
Yeah, so but you have everybody has a game plan, but every now and then the game plan doesn't work out. We forget to take care of some of the little things like taking care of yourself, and sometimes there's outside factors that we can't really. Well, I'm gonna say that I think we can't control, but I think you might argue different. Um, so how do you make sure? How do you realize that you're falling off from taking care of yourself? What do you do in those moments when you realize it? And how, this is kind of a longer question. So how also do you manage, let's say for corporate America, we both work in corporate America, the pressures that come working in corporate America, especially for you as a Black woman, there are unfair standards that are often put for any minority, but especially Black women, to outperform, outshow out, do more than what is expected in the role. And whether it's actual, forces from your job putting this pressure on you, subconsciously knowing that there are these thoughts out there, how do you manage those as well? So I'm going to break the question down real quick. So the first part is, how do you know if you're not taking care of yourself / when you're falling off? What do you do in those moments when you feel like you're slipping and you can't grab onto anything? And the third is, what do you do about those outside sources that you can't control that are probably affecting your day-to-day care and your mental peace or relaxation?
I'm going to go in the order in which you asked me, because the last one I'm still working on. You know that. Hey, you already know I'm still working. So I would say, how do I know when I'm falling off? It's easy. Signs and symbols. Whereas things are going my way one week and then something happens. Like it's almost a surefire test. When you're doing good, life is flowing good. Everybody can go back to say, like, whatever the best year of your life was, like, oh, that was 2009. I pledged, I did this, I did that, I got my car that year. You can think about how great that year felt. And you can realize, like, oh, I was pursuing my dreams. I was staying faithful to some calling over my life. I was putting my foot down. I was drawing boundaries. I was like, life was going good because you were being purposeful or intentional in some way, shape, or form. You didn't waste your days back then. You weren't experiencing sadness because you weren't focused on the bad things. You were focused on the good things. And so because I understand that, if life for me is going good most days and then I get a day or a week or 3 days where I'm like, I'm like, okay, how am I eating? What have I been eating? Am I drinking too much? Have I been talking too much shit about my friends? Like, what has been going? What am I doing that is out of alignment? And and it's because I take away the victim mindset. Like, I take full responsibility for everything that happens to me. And so, because everything that happens to you is a reflection of how you're showing up in the world. And so, if things are going good, that's most likely a reflection that you're out here doing what you need to do. Once things start turning left, that is always the number one literal red flag that something needs to be assessed. Then your second question is,
What happens when you're slipping? You know you're slipping. You don't know how to fix it. Well, you can't find where to fix it. You don't know whether you're messing up. What do you do then?
you have to be quiet. You have to eliminate distractions. You have to sit with yourself. Do nothing. Do nothing. Do whatever your heart. If I'm like, I don't know what's going on, I'm just going to lay down for an hour. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to think about this in those moments right between when I wake up and when I actually get out of the bed. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to go do exercise to clear my mind. I'm going to spend time in nature. The answers are always right there. It's just our intuition is clouded by something. So when you don't know what to do, there's always tools and resources, of course, but each one of us has a compass and a guide inside of us that knows what we're the track that we're supposed to be on and knows when we're deviating off the track. And if you quiet yourself, quiet your surroundings, shut off all the crazy thoughts in your head and stop trying to control the narrative in that one single moment, most likely you get the clarity you need. We all know what we need to be doing. It's just how open to the truth we're willing to be with ourselves.
That's.
And then
So,
you had a third.
I'm 11.
You had a third question.
Yeah. I was just trying to take that all in right there because I'm still working on that. I mean, I'm learning a lot since I've just been with you, so I'm a little bit behind, but I'm catching up quickly, and yeah, it's still a learning curve for me. But yeah, the third question was, how do you manage outside kind of pressures or outside influences that affect with your relaxation, your peace,
Mhm.
and your happiness?
It's not easy. So I was actually going to tell this story earlier, but I'm thinking this is now the appropriate time to tell it about
Well, at this
just,
point, for sure.
yeah, just meeting opposition. One of the biggest lessons that I had to learn is that when those outside forces come to you and they have an opinion about who you are, what you should be doing, what you should not be doing, oftentimes it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. If we can all accept right now that how we think and how we feel about ourselves, it then dictates how our life pans out. When you're met with, whenever I'm met with these outside forces, and I'll give a concrete example of, um, this is what I was talking about earlier of, okay, I got this job at Google. It was cool, but I got it in the pandemic. I can't sit around and just live in a 1 bedroom apartment with my man and my dog until a year and a half later, almost 2 years later. Like, we're going back in 2022. I got hired in 2020. I followed my gut and I said, because of where my mental and emotional state is right now, I need to get a more comfortable living environment because we were losing our minds in that apartment in Brooklyn. Most people, because they believe the stories that have been told to them about what's possible in their lives, would call me crazy. Like, what? If you move, well, what about your job? What about your job? What about your job? What about your job was the number one question that I got before I got you're about to buy a house. That's amazing. Congratulations. This is great. You're going to change the dynamic of your family. You're setting yourself up for long-term success. No, what about your job? And I would say, what about my job? It'll be fine. I truly believe that it'll be fine. And of course, I struggle with that some days, but at the core of my being, I knew that it would be fine. And so I went and moved across the country. I didn't ask permission. I just let them know, like, hey, yeah, closing is on Tuesday. We're going down at the end of April. Bada bing, bada boom. And then I get down here and I'm following I don't know, the steps that are supposed to be followed. Like, oh, you need to file an exception and you need to try to work remote. And I got denied from those things. They said, no, you up and move to Texas. Ain't nobody tell you do that shit. Okay. And so people at my company just couldn't understand why I would ever, what about your career? You need to be thinking about, oh, you might need to start applying outside of Google, like take this seriously. That's some of the feedback that I was getting of like, as if sustaining my livelihood is not something that I would take seriously.
Yeah,
I have no plans of going to the poorhouse anytime soon. And so those reactions that I were getting was not because I wasn't taking it serious. I know what I'm doing. It's because I didn't look stressed doing it. That bothered other people. They couldn't understand, like, how can she do something so risky? How can she do something and be so, cavalier about it? Like, oh, you just, yeah, I'm in Texas. Yeah, I'm in Texas. And guess what? I know I'll be fine once I'm in Texas. Guess what? Because I know my energy is going to carry me wherever I need to go. I know that my sheer raw talent and abilities and people skills and storytelling abilities and confidence to go after what it is I want, it's going to land me on my feet. I've never landed on my face and I've never landed on my ass. Unless I was dropping it low on purpose and landed on my ass, you know what I'm saying? But I took what is true about me for my entire life, and I have years and years and years and years and years of data, and all of this data concludes, oh, you're gonna be all right. Why would I believe anything other than that? And so I actually received criticism at my job. I was told my mindset and the way that I pursue opportunities and I go after them and it can actually be dangerous for me. Those were the exact words used, is that my mindset and the way that I believe in myself and the way that I pursue things could be dangerous. And I'm on the receiving end of this feedback and I have to play my part because I need you to say everything you thinking so I understand exactly what it is that you're insecure about. Because me, thankfully, I'll tell the way this story ends is that I did land a remote role that lets me stay at Google and stay in my house.
Right.
Like I did land. So the stories that all of the rest of y'all believed about, you can't move, you have to stay here, all transferring internally. Yeah, that's hard for y'all, not for me, because I already know how to use my power. And I already know the simple rules, which is love yourself enough to get beyond the stories that are not true about you.
Yeah, and that is in itself is like a great lesson and a reminder that I definitely think our generation, because we sit at this weird spot where we're like, we're not really like F the system, but we're not really so far robotic moving like our parents were, where it's like, oh, we gotta get a job, we gotta keep this job. But again, we're not so like, oh, we don't need nothing in the world. So I think it's and you bring up good points. Like your manager, your boss was like, oh, the way you think is dangerous, thinking that you're going to that you can just do what you want and things are going to be all right and you're going to work out. And it's it's good to hear you remind whoever ends up listening to this, like, there have been, I'm sure everybody has had somebody tell you something that you want. Someone has told you you can't do it, you can't do this, and at least everybody has had a moment where they're like, I got this, don't worry, I know I can do it because I've done it and I can do it again. But when it comes to these corporate jobs, these our paychecks run us. Like, our paychecks are like, oh no, if he said we can't do it, then we must not be able to do it. And that risk, I don't know if I can take that risk, but we have taken bigger risk and we forget it when we come to these jobs.
And the reason why is because that's the way these systems were designed. These systems were designed to have people dedicate their entire lives to these systems so that someone who dared to dream the same way you and I are daring to dream, they have less resistance from the people that are keeping their dream alive.
Yeah.
So the people who founded these corporations, they were thinkers that thought just like me, that said, hey, what I feel this world needs, it currently lacks. So I'm going to go make this company that fills whatever void. Now, who's going to run this company? A whole bunch of people that I need to convince that this is the best that they'll ever be able to achieve is working at my company, working under my brand. And a lot of people believe it, and there's nothing wrong with believing it. But the whole point of this podcast, guys, is once you are in those spaces, I want everybody, I'm not telling anybody to quit their job. I'm literally in business to help people get jobs. I want you to not forget who you are once you enter those spaces. And I want people to go into corporate America and go into the 9-to-5 environment with the mindset of this is a mutually beneficial relationship. I am about to get as much out of this company as this company is about to get out of me. And it's stepping outside of that. I am so small and meek and meager and oh, thank you, big boss man, sir, for giving me one little shilling. No, I'm here because I'm talented and I have something unique to bring to this company. Y'all needed me, which is why y'all interviewed dozens of people and you chose me. Y'all need me. And guess what? I need y'all because I need them benefits. I need them stocks. I need them to pay vacation time off. Like, it's time for me to enjoy all of the years of school, all of the years of my master's program, all of the years of, whatever it was that you did to prepare yourself to land in these positions. The benefit, well, for you is the lifestyle that you are now afforded. You're no longer scrapping for pennies in most cases. So it's like, all right, cool. This is a mutual exchange. What happens is at some point in time in the application process or even in the onboarding process, everybody calls it imposter syndrome, but it all goes back to the story. You lost control of the narrative. You were, kind of a little fish, a big fish in a little pond, and then you got to a big pond and you're a little fish, and you assumed the position of a little fish. And go ahead.
I'll correct you on that. I think it is what you said. Like, we're a big fish in a big pond, and then we move to a bigger pond or the ocean, and we get convinced that we're a little fish now, but really we're still a big fish.
Yeah. And sometimes you got to go back to the pond you came from to remember what you're made of. I spend so much time in Louisiana. I spend so much time in Baton Rouge. I'm always bumping NBA Youngboy, not because I spent so much time with him. I honestly, that scares me. The thought of spending a significant amount of time with Kentrell actually scares me. But it is because he's rapping about where we come from. where I've come from. So it's my mindset to dream big and not accept the narratives that are associated with people who come from where I come from that allowed me to change where I currently find myself. And that mindset doesn't change. I apply it to everything. I say, yeah, I'm gonna move to Texas. I'm gonna get me a house. I'm gonna get me a man. I'm gonna get me a dog. I'm gonna do this. Whatever it is I want, I'm all up. And the price tag is just taking care of yourself. That's it.
And I thank you for reminding me because, those people who were like, what about our jobs? I was that people in our relationship. Like, I put on the board, like, oh, Atlanta, because it has a lot of media jobs in case I need to find a new job. You were the extra reminder. You were telling me, hey, you're going to be all right. You've always been all right. And I believe that now, but I forgot it. And I just want to thank you in front of everybody for bringing that back, reminding me who I was and who I am. And another good point you brought up was like, you and Control, you guys are different, but you have the same spirit. It's that fighter spirit. You're going to go get it. You're going to survive. We all come from situations that we had to survive. And if we were surviving then, we're going to survive now. If anything, now it's probably easier for us to survive and we don't even know it.
We don't got to shoot people. The life we live, we don't actually have to go out and murder business. None of that. We actually,
your biggest enemy right now is probably our HOA. We want our grass 2 inches long. We got it.
We need to bring the trash cans. We need to bring the trash cans from the front of the driveway too. But again, those people, like, those are non-threats. Those are non-events. We could be in a place where we have to look over our shoulders because our actual existence is threatened. We're not in that, but we came from that. You came from Troy, New York. It ain't that different than South Baton Rouge.
But we're not there anymore. And the good part is that now we can, like you said, we can take these benefits. And I always say, use them the way they use you. These big businesses, they care just as long as you're working for them. If you don't work for them, something happens to you, you can't work for them more, they don't care. So that leads me into one of my last questions there. How do you relax? What do you like to do? Give me at least 3 things that you love to do.
I love to relax. I literally live. I only work to be off. I am constantly finding, because regardless of how much restriction you're in, people have always been smart, clever, and cunning when it comes to finding out what is the modicum of freedom that we can have within the restraint. And so the way that I like to have fun is going out, popping titties, shaking ass, enjoying nature, playing with my puppies, going on bike rides. Like, I like to do as much as I can to get in touch with my inner child as possible, because that's actually the guiding light inside each and every one of us. And you can take the happiest adult and I guarantee you they're probably the most fun-loving. They're probably the one that's goofy, that's always laughing, because they're in touch with their inner child. And it's when we lose touch with our inner child that we become these adults that are, seeking nurturing from all these other things, whether it be alcohol, sex, overindulgence in some way, shape, or form, because there's a child inside of us that needs to be nurtured and needs to be addressed and needs to be healed. And the more you do to enjoy yourself, and there's no rules to this, with literally whatever makes you happy. And I know that sounds all like psychedelic, but it's doing literally whatever makes you happy. There's no right or wrong answer. If you like to go outside and flick your boogers at the brick wall, do it. Do it.
Better not find no boogers on that wall, baby, but that's okay. Well, that's all my questions about this, but I do want the people to know a little more about you. And I got a fun, quick answer round. We're going to start off with multiple choice and then work into free answers. So answer these quickly. Don't think about them forever. And let's make it fun.
Okay.
All right. So first one is tea or coffee?
Tea.
That took too long. We're going to try this again.
Ah!
Be quick.
Okay.
Pizza or tacos?
Pizza.
Not that quick. You can let the people hear the question first.
Okay, okay.
Megan Thee Stallion or City Girls?
Megan Thee Stallion.
Okay. Drake or Future?
Ah! Whoa, I love them both for very different reasons. I would have to say Future though. I've never had a Drake. Me and Drake love hate. I've never my loyalty to Future has never ever faltered.
Okay. All right. Favorite place to visit?
New Orleans.
Favorite snack or dessert?
Hot Cheetos.
Cheetos, so ghetto. So I love you, baby.
It's what it is.
Yeah. So I think this is a wrap.
And this has been episode 1. I'm so thankful for everybody for tuning in, and it's just gonna go up from here.
Make it to counting the millions and driving business. Get my sister the pent in the city. Watch her do digits. My hustle strong. I get it from the night to the morn. She texting my phone saying, "Baby, I love you. Come home." I can't, girl. I'm gone. I'm trying to catch a vibe to the song. You see, I'm chosen. Ain't no folding. Gotta stay in my zone. You see, they want defeat from me, but I'm going passing them easily. Taking over the scene and bring that G shit to the industry. Keeping my family first, to grind hard to show the best of me. I'm more than sure that I'm the cure to get my people like the beat. Blow up, I promise I'm the best at mediocre. I'm about to take them to church, go berserk, check out my sermon. I'm major about this paper, you like my nature, come and learn one. And teach you how to grind and get that paper till you blow up.